Hey, what's up, man?
Hello everyone. Welcome to Gearing Up. This is the podcast that I do sometimes from my car, sometimes from my house, and today I'm joined by a very special guest remotely. This is the first legitimately remote podcast episode. I like this level of technology just blows my mind. It shouldn't,
It's pretty amazing.
but it does. But anyways, to introduce my guest, you guys should all know him. Some of you might know him as Tom. Some of you might know him as Notorious EDC on Instagram. But Tom, hello, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and what better motivation than a pandemic that keeps us locked in, and we don't
It's
have much
bringing the
else better
people
to do.
together.
Right? Yeah, no,
That's what it
absolutely.
is,
In we're,
digitally and virtually.
I saw some like not sappy Instagram post, but like some cheesy thing the other day, and it was like sticking together by staying apart, and like,
Yeah,
that's what this makes me think of.
there's a lot of that. You know, what do you call it? Just like posted around the neighborhood. That's like we can stand together by staying apart or whatever. I don't know, whatever.
You know, so it's funny.
Yeah.
It's way more serious up there, or at least it was kind of from the beginning. But I was driving through town, I don't know, a week ago, and like I told you before we jumped on here, I live in a fairly small town, and I'm driving through, and there's this Mexican restaurant uh, coming through the main drag, and they're always open, and they're always pretty busy. I've never been there, but what cracked me up is they hand painted a sign that said like Texas strong, we are still open, and I thought, what, this is not like,
We're not weathering a hurricane. We have to
yeah, this
stay
is,
home and stay apart. It's not.
yeah, this is not about, yeah. So
Yeah.
needless to say, I don't think that signs up anymore. But when I saw it, I was like, this just seems ridiculous. Like,
A
I
little
think they're kind of
misinformed,
missing
but
the
that's
point
okay.
on
Yeah, that's all right.
the pandemic. But
But that's what we were saying before we went on was like, yeah, things just kind of changed, like I think it was kind of everybody was on the same, like, this is happening. And then all of a sudden it was like, yo, this is really happening. Like it
right,
went from being kind of like a casual, oh yeah, we're going to work from home. And then it became like, I'm decontaminating my groceries and changing
oh
clothes
god,
every time I
yeah.
get in the apartment. But obviously it's a way more intense situation up here in New York City than it is in a lot of other places. I mean, fortunately for everyone else, but up here it's a little scarier, I think.
Oh, for sure. I can't imagine what it's like. Just, I've seen some of the pictures online of places that are normally super crowded, and
It's so
people
weird.
everywhere, and now it's sort of like a ghost town. So
It's so
it,
weird. Even our streets that are in our neighborhood are usually pretty packed, and we're just kind of like going to get groceries or going to the post office or whatever, and just like, wow, this is
yeah.
odd.
How's so? I don't know. I've never been to New York. I don't know a whole lot about it, but
You got to come out here, man. You got
do
to
you
come
get
out
one
here.
day? Yes, I'm gonna
Maybe
come out there. We're gonna get some
2021.
donuts. 2021. Yeah,
We're shooting for
travel
next year.
travel's super cheap right now, but maybe don't want to
Right.
travel.
No.
So do you guys cook at home a lot? Do you guys normally grocery shop a lot, or has this been like a
Never.
huge change?
This is a complete everything is on its head right now. Like
Yeah.
we pretty much we go to a restaurant or we order in from Seamless, which is basically like a delivery website, and then you just pick your restaurant, you order what you want, the food shows up pretty much
Nice.
every single day. I don't
Okay.
think we cooked maybe once this entire year.
Okay.
Maybe we made some breakfast, maybe we made dinner once, but literally not once for 3 months. And then
God.
maybe even the year before. You know what I mean?
Is
So
it
now I'm like, I could make some mean scrambled eggs right now, and I'm real good at making coffee. My friend Nick, who's like a big coffee nerd, got me into he got me set up to make coffee at home. He made like a very detailed, specific list of steps that you need to take to like make
Oh
it on a
man.
pour over and all this stuff, like with a
That's Nick
Chemex.
Nick that was on the podcast, right?
Yeah, that's Nick.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Okay.
So luckily for me and my wife, Nick kind of taught me how to do this, and now I don't even need the instructions anymore. I do it off memory because we've been
Yeah.
quarantined for like 3 weeks now. So I've been making coffee every day for almost a month. So I'm like, I could do it with my eyes closed now. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
Total different lifestyle now.
and it's one of those things that I wonder how much is going to go back to, normal, or what's going to be the new normal when now you can go back to ordering out all the time and not having to make your own coffee. And I don't know, you kind of get used to those things, and so now it's
Right.
like, well, I guess I'm going to keep making my own coffee.
Nah,
Anyways, but
I'm dying to have someone else do this shit for us, honestly. I'm dying. Dying
right?
dying to walk into the coffee store and just walk out with a coffee. But you know
Yeah.
what? It is kind of nice to just like wake up, stay home, keep your, sweatpants on and just like make some stuff and then just go to work instead of like getting dressed and leaving the house. But then on the other hand, you never leave the house. So it's like you start
Yeah,
to
you start
feel
going a little
nuts.
crazy.
Yeah, it's
So,
been weird.
well, and one of the things I was wondering is, as someone that does, a lot of freelance stuff, or 100% freelance stuff, um, workflow wise, I mean, I know you're out and about a lot, but has to have been like a big change for that too. For me, I
Yeah.
never worked from home, and now that's all I'm doing. And I've kind of found a rhythm. But was it easier for you to jump into a rhythm since you did it a lot before? Or
I mean, there's like a sense of having when you're freelance, you have to build kind of a routine to keep yourself mentally straight. Like you have to say, oh, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z on Saturday or whatever. Or if I have a day off, I'm going to make sure I take care of paperwork, invoices,
Mhm.
emails, whatever. But now that there's nothing happening, it's even more important to have a routine because, I bought a PlayStation last week, or I think it was last week. I bought it on Sunday. It showed up on Wednesday and I just got lost in Grand Theft Auto 5. I played it when it came out in 2013, I think,
Yeah.
and the way I roll is like I have an addictive personality, hence the knife hobby, but
Yeah.
you can like basically get lost in a video game. I can at least. So what I do is I will buy I'll buy the PlayStation and then beat the game and then return the whole thing because
There you go.
I don't want it in the house. It's like snacks. We don't really have snacks in the house because otherwise I will eat myself to death.
Yeah.
So I just don't have the self control. So it's a little bit scary, But now, now that I'm a little older and wiser, I can control myself a little bit. But I'll tell you, and they make Grand Theft Auto so that one mission goes after another. So you're just like, one more. And then, 8 hours goes by and you're like, I didn't do anything. So you
Yeah.
really need to have like a block. You have to do things in blocks of time. Like I
Oh,
was
for
looking at
sure.
this guy, Sean Tucker on YouTube. He's an
Mhm.
amazing street photographer and portrait photographer and he was talking about how it's super important now more than ever to have like a very structured life. Like you have to set up blocks to work on your personal work and do, marketing, like research. I mean, obviously there's nobody to market to right now. Up
Right.
here everything's closed, but it's just important to give yourself some structure is basically what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I mean, I've had days where, and again, I'm only 2 weeks into really working from home, but I've had days where, I'm kind of scatterbrained, and I'll have just blocks of productive time. I'll have I'm really doing work, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I did work for an hour and a half. Let me, watch 2 episodes of The Office, and then 7 episodes later, I'm like, well, I guess
Right.
I should jump back to work. And then I've had other days, more recently, where I've been trying to really structure. Okay, 8 a.m. rolls around, the wife is already on her way to work. Unfortunately, she's still having to go to work, but um, I log on. I actually brought one of my big monitors from my office to my home office because we don't. I mean, I don't do much work from home, or I hadn't in the past. So now I actually have a big monitor and
Love a
and
big
some
monitor.
space. Oh God, it
It's the
life
best.
changing. Yeah. So anyway, so now I'm trying to kind of be more structured, but it's still a learning experience for me. I'm getting better at it. I've things like this, kind of this remote connectivity with other people I work with, and setting up conference calls. My God. So the company I work for is pretty small. We're like 16 people, and getting all of them kind of at last minute's notice to jump on a conference call when they've never done it before
Right.
was pretty mind-boggling. But anyways, we figured it out. But
We're always
um,
doing like conference calls and stuff in the photo world, so it's pretty normal, and like everybody is doing everyone's doing like Zoom happy hours. You know,
oh,
Zoom
I've seen that. Yeah.
Zoom is like the video conferencing thing. I think I've only used it twice. I don't really thankfully I'm not really subjected to video conference stuff. I'm just like there's nothing worse than a conference call. It's the worst thing ever. It's just like,
Right.
all right, let's all read the PDF
This could have
what
been
we
an
call is
email.
right. Well, what we do in the photo world is we pass decks back and forth, which is
Mhm.
like an explanation of what we're shooting, what it's going to look like. There's reference images, there's a prop list, whatever. So we'll all get on a conference call, and then one person will literally read it, and then you're like, "All right, you read the thing that I have in front of me," and it's like, no one has any questions. Didn't even need to do this, but it
Yeah.
happens all the time. But
Oh, I
yeah,
don't
it's
miss those.
yeah, man. Structure is like so important right now, honestly. And I'm like such an all or nothing person. So I'm like, if I have stuff to do, my phone is in another room because I actually have my notifications for Instagram turned off usually.
Mhm.
So otherwise I'll see something. I'll be like, oh, let me just write this
And
person
then you
back.
go down that rabbit hole.
And then next thing I know, I'm like, wow, did you know that this person's cousin's sister went to Costa Rica 2 years ago? It's like, why
Uh,
am I doing this to myself?
how much is a flight to Costa Rica right now?
It's probably
Yeah.
$20, honestly.
Yep. Yeah, I had a couple acquaintances, friends. I saw a post on their stories that they were going somewhere in like July, and I'm like, well, that's pretty optimistic of you, but
Yeah,
good.
I don't
But
know.
it's pretty crazy. But yeah, I think we're all finding our groove and
It's the
you
new
know,
normal, as they say.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I wanted to dive into your main Instagram account, how I found you, how I know about you, and in the last year, maybe a little longer, we've become acquaintances, friends online. We talk somewhat regularly, and so
Knife buddies, as I like to say.
knife buddies. Yes, I think my wife calls them Instagram friends or internet friends.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
fine.
but it's been cool getting to know you, and so I wanted to talk about Notorious EDC and kind of how that started, where'd the name come from. I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but
Got
uh,
you. Well, actually, it was the funny thing is it's not my main account. It's my that was like my hobby account because I've had my Tom Medvedich account for since 2011.
okay.
So that one it just has way less followers, but it's my main account, you know. But the Notorious EDC account came from kind of actually I could tell you exactly what happened. So basically I made a secondary account from my Tom Medvedich account, and it was called Tattooed Yuppie because that's basically what I am. I'm not doing like bushcraft knife stuff like camping knives or anything. I hate the outdoors more or less. I like going outside for a little while, but I've never camped and I probably never will. I have no
Right.
interest in it whatsoever. The idea of sleeping outside is horrifying to me because I work so much and I work so hard. Why would I ever want to sleep outside and shit in a hole in the ground when
Yeah,
I
no,
can
you're
like be
right.
in a hotel, you know? But that's just me. I know obviously a lot of people love it. That's why there's camping stores around the world and people
Yeah.
travel all over the place. But I made Tattooed Yuppie as a way to kind of talk about home goods. And like if you scroll all the way back to the beginning of the Instagram page in like 2014, I was posting like how to put art on your wall, like how to set it up without actually nailing stuff in the wall first, or like an aroma diffuser and like all this stuff. And I was making some not memes but more like, you know, like inspirational like posts saying, you
Hmm.
know, the road less traveled is always empty, or I don't know, whatever stupid thing I wrote. But I was really into that, you know. And then one of my friends that I worked with, Adam Moore, he is a watch nerd, and he started posting only watches, and all of a sudden he got thousands of followers like
Mm.
very soon, like really
Wow.
quick. So I remember thinking, wow, that's really interesting, and it basically showed me that if you have a niche page, you're it's basically like having a radio station. If you play every kind of music, you'll get a bunch of people, but if you play only hip hop or only country music or only rock, that is going to get way more people because it's going to be super laser focused.
Yeah.
So I decided, let me just do all knives, because at that point I had started to get into EDC gear a little bit. I chipped my tooth biting fishing line at work because a lot of times we suspend stuff with fishing line. It's
Hmm.
easy to retouch and remove it from the shot. I chipped my tooth. My dentist is like, "Why don't you buy a knife or some scissors or something?" I had my Leatherman for a while, and that's when I started to watch a lot of YouTube and learn more about knives. And I went, like I said, I have an addictive personality, so I went down this rabbit hole. I ended up watching a lot of Nut and Fancy videos, which I know a lot of people have like a problem with him, but I don't know. Whatever you think about him, he does have a lot of information about knives, and his whole thing is like high value, low cost,
Hmm.
and quality stuff. So I started looking at Benchmade knives, and it's pretty expensive, $110 for a knife when you're first getting into knives. You're like, this is a lot of money.
Oh, for sure.
And then now you're like, that's a beater knife once you're in the game for a while.
I was
But
gonna say, yeah, it doesn't take long
yeah,
to for that to change.
it's so crazy. You're like, I would never spend $350 on a knife. And you're like, everyone should own a Chris Reeve knife.
Oh, yep,
so
absolutely.
so I switched over to starting to post only knives and EDC gear. And then one day I was on Instagram and I saw Conor McGregor's Instagram, and it's Notorious MMA. And
Hmm.
I love hip hop. I love Biggie. And I thought to myself, Notorious EDC. And it literally hit me like that one day, just out of nowhere. And I was like, I'm changing the name, because I feel like a lot of people, maybe in the Midwest or anywhere really, probably don't care about yuppies and
Right.
probably just didn't appreciate the reference as much. But Notorious just sounds so sinister, and like, I don't know, I'm a nerd, so I don't really think there's anything really sinister or like gangster about me. But I just I thought the name was great, and I just started posting all knife stuff, Notorious EDC, and then boom, it took off, and it just surpassed anything I ever thought it would. And I honestly just made the whole account just to connect with other EDC nerds, because this was
Yeah.
like 2014. The end of 2014 really is when I made, I think, early 2014. Then I switched the name in the end of 2014. And then 2015 is when it started to pick up a little, momentum. And I just started meeting like all these, not meeting, but like connecting with people all around the world that were into the same hobby. So it was just an amazing experiment. And I still, I met some of my best friends I've, in my life through this crazy hobby. So it's kind of amazing, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just in my short stretch of time being involved, I've noticed the same thing. I've done things that I never thought I would do. I mean, like doing an interview or a podcast with someone, on the other side of the country is crazy. I've gone and done remote interviews. I've met people that I never would have met otherwise. So I mean, it's crazy, but it connects people, and it's pretty fun. I'm As you were walking through all of that, I pulled up Instagram, and now I'm searching. You start typing in Notor, and then sure enough, Conor McGregor comes up right below you.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
only
it's
below me because
because
you
I follow
follow me.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But I scrolled as far back as I could, and yeah, sure enough, all of that stuff. It's crazy going back and seeing it, but it's even cooler when you hear kind of the story behind it and how it became a thing. People always ask me why knives and why I got into, and it really was
Of course.
a from a practical, like my dad always carried a pocket knife, and he kind of what you were saying in terms of cost. He always carried a Kershaw assisted opening, like speed safe knife.
Right.
And when I was 13 or 14, that was like the coolest thing to me, is like this spring
Of
loaded
course.
knife. And so that was one of my first knives, was a Kershaw Leek. I think it's
Classic
the Leek.
knife.
Yeah, I mean,
Love the
great
leak.
knife.
I had a few of them.
But yeah, I mean, and it kind of grew from there. People also ask why I love pineapples, and I never have a
Because
great
they're
answer.
delicious.
Other than, yeah, I mean, I just like, I have family that thinks that, watching SpongeBob as a kid made me like them low key, but whatever.
Maybe.
That's fine.
But do you
So
like pineapples on pizza?
no, I don't.
I do.
I'm just
Very,
not.
very polarizing topic.
It is, as a pineapple lover, I'm really not that concerned with it. It's not for me. Just something about the combination of like pineapples and tomato sauce is weird.
Oh
Uh,
man, you're
but I
missing
will
out.
say I do love a good kebab that's got like chicken and
That's perfect.
pineapple and red
Sweet and
and green
savory.
peppers and onions, and just throw it on the grill. That to me is like the pinnacle of cooked pineapple. Otherwise,
I
you
can
just
get
need to
down
eat
with that.
pineapple by itself because it's delicious. Um,
Pineapples can do no wrong. Mix it with some tequila. Boom. You're good.
shoot, you ain't lying. Okay, so I mean, that's a really great explanation as to how it got started. I love the story of chipping your tooth, and hey, when because I always get onto
Still got
my
the chip in my tooth. So annoying.
I always get onto my wife for opening stuff with her. I chipped my tooth when I was really young. Fortunately, it was it wasn't a permanent tooth, so I lost it and problem solved. But
Right.
yeah, but now I always get onto my wife, and my son started doing it too.
No, you
And
can't do
I'm
that.
like, no, 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 no,
There's
don't use your
tools.
teeth.
There's a tool for
I'm
everything.
like, hang on, I've got a knife here. But
Right.
um, I think one of the things that I am most curious about is how your fascination or love for Victorinox came into play, and like where that came from, and how that's kind of changed since you got into the hobby.
That's actually a really interesting question because I think when I first started getting into knives, everyone has always, as a little kid, you see Swiss Army knives and your dad's got one because my dad wasn't a knife guy. He's
Hmm.
just a dude that worked in a factory, but he had like a knockoff of a Swiss Army knife. So everyone has always grown up with some variation of a Swiss Army knife,
Yeah.
at least they can recognize it. And you might not even know that it's a knockoff. You're just like, yeah, it's a Swiss Army knife. But it's one of those things where it's always around. And basically, I feel like I landed on the Cadet pretty early
Hmm.
because it's just really cool looking and there's just so much stuff in such a small form factor. Like the fact that that is a multi-tool and it's smaller than almost every knife on the market is just cool to me. And like I
Cadet
said,
is awesome. Absolutely.
it's so sick. And like I said, I'm not like a outdoorsy person, so I don't ever really need anything to chop trees or whatever. So it's like just having a small knife that's truly an EDC knife in my uses is perfect. So all of a sudden I dive down that rabbit hole and I find out that there's 100 colors you can get. So I'm like, I need every single one of them.
Oh
So
God, yeah.
I don't even know how I'm looking at my knife collection right now. I don't have no idea how many. I probably have, what is that? 5, 10, probably like almost 40 cadets, maybe
God,
30 or 40
that's
cadets, just a
wild.
bunch of different colors. But I love them. And a lot of people love Pioneers, but it's a little too bulky for me.
Hmm.
That one is a little easier to find, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Oh, for sure.
so I picked the most inconvenient one to fall in love with, of course, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I for the sack fans out there, I'm with you. I feel like the odd man out when everybody's making custom Pioneers and 90, those 93
Yeah, the
millimeter
93 size is a little too
sizes.
big for me.
I love the 84. I love it for how it fits in a gear slip, or how it just kind of disappears in your pocket, and getting modders to make a custom pattern, or even just finding one of, like you said, it's definitely one of the harder ones to find.
Sure.
But yeah, you're in good company in terms of loving the 84 millimeter build. That's for
There's
sure.
there's just so much to love with Swiss Army. It's like, I don't know, they have such a good just there's like a set of tools for everybody pretty much. And like you said, you can get custom ones made, which is fun. They have places like Daily Customs where you can attach titanium and brass and copper scales to your Swiss Army knife with an
Hmm.
epoxy, which I have one like that, and it's just awesome. So you can even they even milled out like a slot for tweezers and a pen and a toothpick and all that. So
Nice.
it's just so versatile. There's just, and the fact that most of them are affordable and that cool. Like you can spend, at the most, I think I spent, my most expensive cadet was $180. It was a burgundy one,
Yeah.
and it's because the guy didn't really want to sell it. He was just like, "Listen, if you want to buy this, I'm gonna get you on it." And I'm like, "It's all good. I want that color." And most of them were like probably $120,
Yeah.
average on the harder to get ones. But for
Yeah, that
the knife
2015
worlds,
blue.
it's,
Whew.
oh, the 2015 blue is sick. That steel blue,
That's my favorite.
that one was sick. And the fact that you could just buy it from Amazon at the time is
Yeah.
crazy. But, like the Apocalypse, what was it? The toxic green one I got from some German knife shop. I had someone hook me up with it and, basically buy it. Like I sent them the money, they bought it and they mailed it to me because they wouldn't ship to America. But, it was like $100, not even. So
Yeah.
it's like, compared to custom knives and going off the deep end, $120 or $100 is really not bad.
No, it's not crazy. And yeah, you can very easily go crazy with some of the
Oh,
customs that
it's
are out there. Even
too easy.
the nicer production knives now are getting up there in price. But yeah, I mean,
Right.
the point of affordability is great, cuz yeah, I mean, if you're not into the 2015 steel blue, you can get one on Amazon for, $30. If you go with
Yeah,
like
you're not going to
the
pay much more than retail, which is
yeah.
awesome.
So cool. Well, man, that's good to know, man. That's awesome insight. And I like seeing um the Swiss Army knives have this kind of subculture inside of everyday carry, where you've got your Swiss Army knife fans, and then the folks that don't really carry them, and then within the Swiss Army knife family, there's the people that mod them and the people that collect every single color, and it's wild to see how dedicated some of the fans are. So
Dude, I'm basically a fringe Swiss Army collector compared to the diehards. Like
oh right, I mean it's
I
nuts.
I have a bunch, but there's guys that could name every single one and every tool that's in every one, and I'm just like, I got to use SackWiki. If you
Yep,
guys
I was
don't
gonna
know
say
about
that's
SackWiki, sackwiki.com is a great resource for learning about all different Swiss Army knives. And if you're ever like, I wish there was a Swiss Army knife that had this, you could literally go to this website,
yep.
probably find it, and then maybe even find it on eBay. So
Absolutely.
there's
Yeah, there
resources.
was I came across I think it was a Mechanic Junior. It was like a 84 millimeter with the ply. I think maybe I'm making this up, but I came across one and I know it was a Mechanic, and then I start Googling and find out that it's like one of the harder patterns to find, and I'm like, oh
Of
great,
course.
yeah.
Of
So,
course.
um, switching gears just a little bit, like looking at the everyday carry community, Instagram, social media, all of that stuff. In terms of the EDC community, what I always try to ask about trends when I do episodes like this, and so I wanted to get your input on kind of the current trends that you see, and like what you think of them, what you like, what you don't like, all that stuff.
I think for the past year, actually the past few years, I feel like knives went from being big, overbuilt, like stridery, Medfordy knives to now much smaller and more practical knives.
Hmm.
And I obviously like, if for anyone listening that doesn't follow me and doesn't know my knife taste, I like smaller knives. It's just better for what I need. I like knives that are more like slip joints, that are better slicers, because I'm cutting a lot of like foam core and like cardboard type materials at work. So I just need something that's basically, I just need a box cutter and I could get rid of my entire knife collection and I'd be fine. And that's probably true for everybody, but
Right.
that's not how insanity works. You have to buy all the knives. So
Yeah.
that's just the rules. But now I think the new trend, I mean, the trend for like the past year was front flippers. And I think that's probably chilling out a little bit. I don't know why so many people are so upset about front flippers. It's just a different way to deploy a blade. I really enjoy it when it's done well. Some makers get it right and some don't, but man, when it works right, it is so much fun. Like
Yeah. Oh, for
I
sure.
just absolutely loved it, and still do love it because I still have a few that are front flippers. But I think another trend that I see is OD Green micarta has really just exploded in the knife world.
Yeah.
And it was like micarta was obviously always around forever, but now I feel like even, mainstream knife companies are like, this has OD Green micarta on it. And I love OD Green micarta, so I'm happy about it. It makes it easier for people to get it. People seem to love it. So I don't know. I feel like overall, um, the trend, and there's a lot more slip joints now than there used to be.
Yeah.
I actually got a message from this guy in Serbia 2 days ago, which was really cool. And I think he's pretty new to knives, and he was just kind of asking for some recommendations for, about $100. And I
Hmm.
was just like, dude, there is more options now than there has ever been, I think. So
Yeah.
with all the different stuff coming out, it's just endless things to choose from and look at, and different patterns and locking, mechanisms and everything. So it's pretty amazing. I think it's a great time to be a knife collector, and
Oh,
also
for
bad
sure.
for your wallet though.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about slip joints and all these inexpensive models. I actually just got an email earlier today about my Kickstarter for Wesson Goods,
Oh yeah,
and they did I think it's called the Henry slip joint, and yeah, it's called the Henry, and I mean, again, their first no pun intended stab at a slip joint, and it's awesome, and it was $80, I think. So I'm excited to check
I'm
that one
pulling it up
out. And
now. I want to see it. Oh yeah, this looks
um
really nice.
yeah, so I opted for the G10 inlay, and I went with the mustard. So if you scroll down their feed,
I'm
about
scrolling.
12 or 15 pictures, it's right in the
Oh, on
middle.
their Instagram. Let me see.
Yeah, they're Wesson Henry with the mustard G10. Like,
Oh, that's sick. Yeah,
I'm excited. I'm very excited.
that's a really
So
nice looking knife. I
yeah, and
wonder who's
so
producing it though.
I'm actually I've talked to the
Excuse me.
guy that does some of their photography, and I've tried to set up something like this, and they at first they were just super busy with the Kickstarter, and then all of this coronavirus stuff happened, and so we've been kind of out of touch. But yeah, I want to get to know them a little bit, and know who's doing the production, and I want to know a little bit more of their story. I think they're a pretty cool brand. And then the other one,
Real
you know,
quick, how small is this knife? Because this looks, I
it's
see that the nail nick is like 25% of the blade. This is a tiny knife.
yes, it's small.
This got to be a 2 inch blade. This is almost too small for me, I would say.
Let me
I
see.
figured out over the years, I kind of figured out that I like a 2 and 3/4 inch blade. That's pretty much what I
Yeah, I
love.
was gonna say between 2.5 and 3
Yeah,
works well for me.
that's where I'm at. Yeah,
Uh,
this is a little guy.
one
It's
point
nice though.
six ounces.
The blade length is 2.35 inches.
Okay, so
Closed
it is
length
gonna be
is
pretty
three
small.
inches. That's
Yeah,
really small.
yeah.
A lot of people would carry that in their fifth pocket.
Uh huh.
Sandvik blade steel. That's pretty cool. How much is this knife?
So I did the Kickstarter pre-order, and it was 65. I think it was
That's not
65.
bad. That's
And then
not
I
bad.
paid like the $10 extra to get the G10 inserts.
Yeah, why not?
So
Wood is 115.
we'll see how, I'm interested to see how it does. Apparently they crushed their Kickstarter goals, so there's some folks out
Titanium
there
is a
that want to
buck
try it.
35 though.
Man,
Hmm.
that's yeah.
Buck 35 for Sandvik steel is a little steep. And now I
Yeah.
sound like everyone on Instagram, but it's true. Nothing
No.
worse than people on Instagram starting to talk about blade steel. Oh my god, it drives me up the wall.
Yeah, someone tagged me in something the other day that was asking about blade steel, and I was like, I don't care. I'm not gonna go down that
If
road.
it's stainless, I'm good.
If it
That's all
cuts
I
and I
care.
can sharpen it with my KME, like I'm fine. I'm not rough enough to.
Wow, you're doing a KME?
Yeah, yeah. I've got the
Man.
KME,
Yeah, people really people get real crazy with it. What's that other one that people like? Not
the
the
Wicked
KME,
Edge.
the Wicked Edge. People go nuts with that stuff. I just use a strop now because I just touch it up, after a few uses or whatever, and it's just
Yeah.
keeps it nice and
Well, same
dialed in.
here. I use the Knives Plus one, and
Yeah, that's the one I
it's
got. It's
great.
amazing.
Um, I mostly use the KME when I do like if I do like an acid wash or something, and I need to
You got to
just
start
clean up
fresh.
the edge. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, for day to day use, I just hit the strop a couple times and it's fine.
The Knives
Um,
Plus, I want to shout them out. They've never given me anything for free, and this is not like any bullshit ad or whatever. But
right.
honestly, like the problem I've had with strops is that they're usually just pieces of leather and they get warped and a little wavy. So they never have a truly flat surface. So you never get a good like motion, like when you kind of move the knife across,
Hmm.
it's never even. But with the Knives Plus one, they have a thin piece of leather glued to a wood block, so it's perfectly flat. And they did this so right because it's just going to stay nice forever. And then you can just clean it up with some olive oil or whatever when it gets too, filled with metal,
Yeah.
and you're good to go. So
Yeah. It's
I
perfect,
bought
and
one from them recently and I told
it's like
them how
25
great it
bucks, I
is.
think.
It's like, yeah, I think it was like 35 or
Yeah,
something, but
like
still, it'll last
it's
forever. You're good.
it's definitely a must have.
It is.
So
Very
yeah.
underrated dropping a knife.
Oh, no doubt. I actually didn't. And so before I had the KME, I had the Lansky,
Right.
and
That's
it was.
another
I mean, it
popular
was
one.
fine. For a $35 sharpener, it worked fine.
Is that the pull
Um,
through one or is that the one that's like the wait, is the KME because I think I had the KME. That's the one where it looks like a pistol grip and you have to
yes,
like right.
yes.
But you
And the
know what it
Lansky
is,
is pretty
man? Sorry,
similar to
go ahead.
that. No, you're good. Yeah, the Lansky's pretty similar to that, but until I had this strop attachment for the Lansky, I didn't understand like the leather and how that worked and like
Right.
why it was even beneficial. And now, I tore down 15 or 20 cardboard boxes in the garage the other day with my um, QSP Pelican. I don't wherever it is. I was looking for it because it was on my desk. And going through that much cardboard, I would expect to have to strop it a few times. But yeah, I mean, I hit it 2 or 3 times and it's perfect. It's right back at it.
You know what it is, man? I was talking to Jared Ozer, and I was like, listen, tell me how to sharpen this knife. And he's like, just get a strap. And I was like, so I don't really need to go crazy with a Spyderco sharp maker or all this other crazy stuff. And he's like, dude, just a strap, hit it, at the end of the day or whatever. And what I end up doing is like once a month, I'll just kind of strop everything because I have enough knives that I'm basically putting everything in a rotation. And I don't really cut that much stuff anyway. I really just have them because I like them. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when I do use them, I'll strop it and it's fine. So I'm glad. I'm just like, why don't I just stop asking YouTube and Instagram and ask someone that makes knives for a living? And then there's the answer.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll take his advice. He
Sure.
seems to know what he's doing.
He's got a couple of good ideas.
So before we jumped on here, you mentioned you were shooting the 2020 um,
Limited edition
limited edition.
A-Locks
Yes.
family.
So speaking of recent releases or upcoming releases or new releases, what is there anything that's kind of on the horizon that you're excited about? Anything anybody's announced or
To be
anything like that?
honest, I kind of have everything I want. There's knives that I see here and there where I'm like, oh, that's cool, but I know that after 2 months I'll be bored of it. Like I got the Para 3 lightweight, which is I think the third Para 3 that I've had, and I'm gonna sell it.
Yeah, I just can't
But
hang on to them either.
mostly, I mean, I think my favorite Para 3 is just this, kind of standard one. The lightweight one is cool, but it feels a little unbalanced to me.
Yeah,
And that's probably just me being crazy, but the blade feels much heavier than the handle. And I feel like at that point, I could just carry a dragonfly. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
for sure.
Because if you want a lightweight knife, just get a smaller knife, FRN scales, whatever. It's just a little easier. But the one knife that I'm actually pretty pumped about is the mini bug out. And
Yeah.
they already have the white and the orange one, but I want a murdered out one, which I saw. I think Knives Plus is actually writ dyeing the the white scales
Yep.
to make them black, but I'm kind of like, do I need to spend $150 on yet another knife during the apocalypse when there's no work coming in? Probably not. I might wait a little bit, but
Yeah.
that's something I got my eyes on. I'm always curious what JE Made is doing. That's a dude out in China, and he honestly,
He's made
if
some slip joints, right?
dude, he is an absolute savage. I am not kidding you when I say that $180 slip joint from him feels as good or better than most customs I've handled.
That's
And
insane.
he's just pumping them out. Like, I don't know what the quantities are that he's doing, but the fact that you can just go on DLT trading and just buy one and not have to like wait 3 years for it to be made or like, you know what I
You
mean?
don't have to wait for
It's
books to
amazing.
reopen.
It's amazing. It's absolutely mind
Interesting.
blowing.
That's one that I've seen, but I've never looked into too thoroughly. So that's good
Yeah.
input. I'll have to check him out.
Yeah. His
Um,
stuff's amazing.
yeah, that's good to know. I mean, so that's one that I definitely want to kind of keep in my back pocket. Are there any other makers that really? So one of my problems with what I've seen lately, and I take this, I actually take this from you because I saw this in one of your stories forever ago. You said something about like titanium frame lock flippers with blue anodized hardware, and I don't know why that stuck with me, but I was like, man, it seems like everybody lately. It seems like there's not a lot of innovation, at least from my perspective and what I'm seeing. I think that there are companies that are doing some really cool things with budget knives. I think there's some companies that kind of have their audience figured out. But I mean, I guess my point being, I feel like there's kind of a standstill or a plateau in terms of innovation, and a lot of what's coming out lately is, hey, let's slap a new coat of paint on it, and
Right.
here's your sprint run or here's your exclusive. I mean, what's your take on that? I mean, is that something you like, you don't like, or
Well, well, this is like a multi-layer answer I'm going to give you.
that's fine?
The immediate thing is my post about that was like I just can't stand blue anodized accents anymore because to me that's like back when people would put spinners, like not real spinners but like, Pep Boy spinners on
The
a
hubcaps.
car. And you're just like, dude, this is not a fancier knife because there's a blue screw on it. It doesn't add anything in my opinion.
That's funny.
It's like a cheap party trick, I think. I would rather see a knife look clean. And like this isn't knocking Chris Reeve knives, but like I can't stand the blue lug on it because to me it's an eyesore. So when I ended up getting my Insingo, I got a silver lug because it just looks nice and clean to me. The design is amazing. The knife is beautiful. It doesn't need anything extra.
Right.
But a lot of times, people want to get a custom knife because they want a full dress knife, but you can't get one. So you end up getting a titanium knife and the pocket clip is Mokutai or Zircutai or whatever, or Damascus. And it's just like an accent, which is okay because it's not blue. But at least there's some sort of exotic element to it there, quote unquote. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, but to answer your other question, I feel like, people just want to have a bread and butter kind of a knife, and they just kind of gravitate to what they know people will buy, which I am kind of a fan of people making stuff that they like, and just have people make stuff, or just have people, buy the thing that you make. Like there's people that make polarizing designs and people love them. You don't have to just make a titanium flipper frame lock with blue anodized stuff, but they know it's going to sell, and obviously it's going to sell well, so they have to pay, they have to make money. That's how business works.
Right.
But it is what it is. It's like my photography business, which is what I do, for a living. Obviously, I don't want to shoot everything on a white background or a pastel background, but that's what everybody wants. So that's what we do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it is what it is. People have to do the thing that's going to get them paid, and then they can kind of step outside that box and do some more interesting things at that juncture.
I like it. Okay. No, I mean that's absolutely true. And I don't know, I guess one of my frustrations just comes from, okay, like the Spyderco Shaman, like great knife, good knife, love it, great, whatever. I mean, I don't have one, but it looks fine. But then there's, this, it seems like they'll put out a sprint run and it's like, okay, well now it's in micarta, or now it's in this other steel or whatever, and it seems like they're really servicing the fanboys of the Para 3, but they're forgetting about some of the other great knives that they make, or they're not changing it up any. But no, I mean, I absolutely see that point of it too, where they're going to make what sells. So absolutely makes sense.
But they also know where their bread is buttered. You know what I mean?
Very true.
They know what sells. It's like it's no different than cameras or cars. Like I'll give you an example. When a camera is selling well, they will never change the name. They'll just do Mark II, Mark III, Mark IV, whatever.
Right.
Like a Canon 5D. There's already a fourth one, and then there's a 5DS and all this stuff now. But if it doesn't sell well, they'll make the same camera and just change the name. Same thing happens with cars. The car's not that different. They'll just change the sheet metal a little bit, and the engine's the same as the previous year. But I think with knives, it's like this one's selling well. So when you see the Para 2, that's probably one of the most popular knives, production knives that's ever been made, right?
For sure.
It's in every single color and combination of blade steels and all kinds of stuff that you could ever imagine. That's because it sells well, and they know there's people whose entire collection is just Para 2s. Look at
Looking at
brands
you,
like
Frankie.
Microtech. Yeah. Looking at Microtech, it's like they'll do stuff in 5 colors and people will want every single one. So it's just a matter of, they're basically just exhausting all colorways and getting as much money out of
They're milking it.
yeah, and that's what a business should do.
Sure.
If people don't like it, then they won't buy it, and then people vote with their wallets.
Oh,
People say
absolutely.
people say everything on Instagram. I hate this knife. I'm never buying it. I love this knife. I'm gonna buy it on day one, and it's always the opposite. The loudest people don't really matter, because you can talk to people that work at Blade HQ or whatever, and they're like, no, this knife did really well. The one that, it's like so many people hate on James Brand because their blade steel is not a super steel or whatever. But guess what? They're selling a ton of knives because they're cool.
That micarta. Whew.
Yeah.
Man.
They
Big
do a
fan of
great
that one
job.
too. Yeah.
They do a great job, and they're really nice guys. And shout out to them too. So yeah, it's like people talk all kinds of shit on Instagram, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because you aren't going to spend the money anyway.
Right. Oh man, it's therapeutic. Mostly because I've been out of human contact with people other than my wife and son, which granted I love them, but they're the only people I've talked to for, I don't know, like 2 weeks now.
This isn't a normal way to live.
No, it's not. And so this is very therapeutic for me. And
likewise.
It's always interesting to get another perspective out there. I'm trying to think of anything else that I like hot button wise that I wanted to hit on, but I
What, with
you
the
know
knife stuff?
yeah, I mean like just wanted to get your thoughts on. I'm not a flashlight guy.
Yeah, I like flashlights are cool. I like, their flashlights to me are kind of like like if I never left the early stages of my knife collection and ventured out to mid-techs and then customs and stuff, that's where my flashlight life is. My most expensive flashlight is like $200. It's the Tane Aurora, and it's amazing. I love it.
I'm trying to
But
remember which one that is, but
it's
anyways,
the
go on.
one no, it's the one that's got the like the spiral kind of milling
From Urban
titanium.
EDC.
Yes, that's the
God, I
one.
love that light.
It's a really nice light, but it doesn't even have a pocket clip on it. Like
Right.
functionally, it's good in its modes, but it doesn't have a pocket clip. So it's like you can't put it on your hat if you actually need to do something with both hands, you know?
Yeah.
Like my CountyCom Maritac flashlights, I love them because they're
Mhm.
super functional and they're not more than $45 each. So
Yeah, those are great bang for your buck.
yeah, that's kind of like the flashlight stuff. Like I never got into the Hanko like $800 for the light and
God.
$400 for the pocket clip.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I look at that like people look at custom knives. I'm like, are you crazy? But
So, yeah, I was gonna
obviously, yeah,
say,
to each their own.
I so at work, I mentioned I work in a relatively small office, and so, within a matter of a couple of weeks of me being there, I was the knife guy,
That's how
and
it works.
yeah, and now the second question, the first question is always like, when did you get it? What do you like it? The second question is always, how much was this one? And
People love to know how much money you're spending. God, it drives me crazy.
it's yeah, it's kind of the point where it's kind of this game, and I mentioned earlier, I've been one of my other Instagram friends turned me on to the QSP Penguin. Um, Knives Plus sells them. Again, it's not a plug for Knives Plus, but it's a $29 knife. It's micarta handles, deep carry
Little sheep's
pocket
foot.
clip.
That's a
Yep.
nice one. I'm looking it up right now.
D2 steel, and the action and the fit and finish do not say $30. I took it apart and bronzed all the hardware and the thumb studs
As
and
long
put
as
it
it's
back
not
together.
blue.
It's not blue. Um, and I took that in, and they were like, "Oh man, this one's sweet. What was this like too?" And so now it's gotten to where that's kind of the game is what is it? But I look at just like you said, I look at flashlights, and the thing is, flashlights and pens and knives are kind of just surface level. Then you get into like the tops and the fidget toys, and like just the
Right.
and just and again, hey, it's whatever you're into. And that's that's what I always tell them when they're like, how much you spend on this? I'm like,
But
you
you know
like
what
to
it
go
is?
bow hunting, so
But that's exactly what I was going to say. If you use something all the time, you'll know there's a difference. Like I know there's a difference between a $3,000 camera and a $500 camera. And I
yep.
could tell you why the more expensive one is going to make your life easier. If you're someone that uses flashlights every day because you work in a coal mine or something, you're going to have a really strong opinion on your headlamp.
Yeah.
And I understand that. But, the my beef with all those expensive flashlights is, well, I guess it's not even a real fair beef. I was going to say, the big complaint is like, oh, well, they're using the same LED emitter that's on a $20 flashlight. Well, on $1,000 custom, they're using the same billet of steel that's on a $20 knife. So I guess
That's
it doesn't really
very
make a
true.
difference.
Yeah.
It's just about what you like. And I kind of have like a to each their own thing where I can laugh about it. But obviously, at the end of the day, I can laugh at myself too for having a
Oh,
knife collection.
no
It's like,
doubt.
dude, you don't need any of these.
Yeah, listen,
Yeah.
between knives and the time that I spend on my Switch, I don't have any room to talk. I hate that Nintendo, like, if you're on your Switch and you go to the profile, it'll tell you all the
How
games
much
that you
time?
play and how much
Uh,
time, and
don't even
just
tell me.
it hurts to see, like, when Zelda came out. Oh my god. I have
Throwback Thursday.
not throat, like the new Zelda on the
Oh, there's a new
Switch.
one?
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus.
I
Everything
think.
old is new again, you know? They
Oh,
gotta
absolutely. Yeah, I
no more
mean,
new ideas, we're just
if it
rehashing old
if
stuff.
it ain't broke, right?
No, exactly, yeah, that's exactly it.
So, moving away from actually kind of transitioning from everyday carry. You mentioned earlier that your main account was your first account,
My
and
real life, yeah.
your real life, and I've followed it for a while. I love that account. Your stories kill me, and they're
Thanks, man.
ridiculous. They're
The
they're the
stories are
best.
really the fun part of that account, honestly.
I get to see donuts and your thoughts on the stages of a banana, and screenshots from your inbox when somebody sends you something like White Claw esque, which I
Oh my
noticed has
god.
slowed down a little bit.
Yeah, I did that. I had to put that fire out myself. I couldn't do it anymore.
But no, I guess for me, I don't know how many people know, but like I went to school. I got a degree in advertising, and like I
Mm,
was very much more on the analytical and data driven side of it. I
gotcha.
focus on media planning and scheduling and audiences and data. And
The
so
nerdy
my
stuff. I love that stuff too.
yeah, and my weakness, or I guess my lack of strength, comes on kind of the creative side. That's why I like Instagram. I can kind of scratch that itch, or uh, exercise that muscle, whichever works better. Um, but no, I following your main account, like it was just awesome scrolling through there and seeing some of the stuff you've worked with, like brands and people, and it's just, as soon as I saw that on your account, I don't know, a year or two ago when I followed that one, I was just like, this guy's got some stories. Like he's done some cool stuff. What I mean, I don't want to ask a super broad question, but like, is that crazy to you? Like, did you ever see yourself working? Because I know you've worked with. I don't know. The first one that comes to mind is makeup. Was it Maybelline?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. So
first
you've done. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say first of all, thanks for saying all that nice stuff. Obviously, I appreciate the kind words and everything. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey to say the least. Um, obviously, I could talk about my photography life for hours, but just to try and make it short and sweet, it was just something that I was attracted to in high school. Took it as a fun class, failed it. Took it again, barely passed it, and then ended up in photo college and or picture school as I like to call it. And
Pick to
then
school.
yeah, and then ended up working in the car world in California because that's where I went to school. And that started getting taken over by CGI, and I didn't want to do CGI stuff at all. So I just kind of I wasn't really feeling LA much. So I went back to New Jersey, where I'm from, and started working in New York City. And, the rest is kind of history. Like, I worked for this guy who was, I'll say eccentric. And he basically was like, if you want to make art, you can make art. If you want to make money, you got to shoot commercial stuff. So I just kind of started shooting still life products because I was attracted to that world. And but I still love shooting people, so I tried to find a balance of both, which is tough to do because people want you to specialize in one thing, which I understand now that I'm deeper in the game. I'm 10 years in now shooting for myself. But yeah, man, I've had a lot of I could tell stories for the rest of my life already if I quit tomorrow. But I've had a lot of crazy experiences, like shooting celebrities and rappers and musicians and athletes. And like you said, I was been working with all these cosmetic brands. That's pretty much been the past 2 or 3 years of my life, is primarily cosmetics with some beverage stuff, some alcohol stuff.
Yeah, I've
So
seen. I
it's been
remember
cool.
the rosé shots you did, and
Yeah, for the fat Jewish, that crazy guy. What a
yep,
guy. Shout out
and
to Josh.
there was it Kraken. I can't remember.
Yeah, Kraken
Yeah,
rum.
just some I mean, just from a even if you don't appreciate ads and photography, like just some incredible work. And then being someone that I'm like, hey, not only is this guy into knives and stuff, but he's shooting pictures for some ad. I don't. It just, to me, it was just always cool seeing
Thanks,
that
man.
connection there. And um, so I wanted to know, like, what was the hardest part of, like, getting your foot in that door? Was it just grinding it out, or right place, right time, or a little bit of both, or
It's
what was that
it's
like?
all it's always a little bit of everything, because when I was assisting, so a lot of times the way people get into photography is when you're younger, you assist another photographer or multiple photographers, and you kind of learn by being around them, like how to deal with clients and how to handle yourself as the person that's kind of, the main one on the shoot, and, from the creative side or whatever. And I just, I think I got lucky because around 2009, when the economy collapsed, everybody's budgets kind of just went to shit.
Yeah.
And a lot of the guys that I looked up to before '09, they were literally, there was photographers that literally had multiple Ferraris. So in my mind at 21, when I'm in California in 2006, I'm like, I'm going to have a white Lambo for the daytime. I'm going to have a
Oh
black
my
Ferrari for the
god.
nighttime. I was like, really like, yo, I'm going to get this money and it's going to be the best life ever. Fast forward to reality, and, the economy just collapsing basically, or whatever, the recession in '09 with everything. A
Right.
lot of brands basically backed off and realized that once they did back off, they could get the same stuff more or less done for a lot less money. But it was a tough time for the old heads because they were not interested in, making a fraction of what they used to make. But it was a
Yeah.
great time for people like me who were up and coming, where I was living in my dad's house at the time, so I could afford to work for free or for cheap. And I'm not advocating that you work for free and steal people's jobs, but obviously no one's going to work for free forever. And the flip side of that coin, just as an aside, is you're not taking anything away from anybody, because the brands that will hire you to work for free don't want to pay anybody anyway. So
Right.
you're really not losing anything. But I did mostly editorial work, like for magazines for free, and I even lost money sometimes, but I just wanted to build my portfolio, and, just basically working for peanuts. So you just grind out for years, and if you can eat shit for 5 years, and then you're going to be okay. And then if you can eat shit for 5 more years, then you're really going to be okay. So it's just a matter of how much do you love this thing, and how much of your life are you willing to put into it, because I have put every ounce of my being into photography. And if you don't love it, you will not last 1 year, because it's
100%.
so much work.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're on set, standing on a concrete floor in a studio for 10 hours. You're taking calls, after dinner. Your whole life revolves around the work when you're freelance. So you really have to love it, and it has to be your whole world. Otherwise, it's just not going to work.
Yeah. And that seems to be kind of the consensus. And so I expected something along those lines, but that's a great perspective. Like the idea that these people that had already put in the dues and kind of got established couldn't afford or didn't want to take a big pay cut. Yeah, I mean that certainly lets you get in, but obviously you had kind of had the momentum building and paid the dues you needed to, and yeah, I mean that's it's crazy to think about.
The-
Um,
And then the thing that, from there, you do all these like smaller jobs, and then an opportunity will come up where, like, for example, one of the guys I was assisting, this guy, Peter Rose, a super nice guy, he was shooting some people stuff for a client, and then they approached me, or no, what happened? Yeah, this is what happened. Sorry, let me backtrack.
Very good.
Peter was shooting this these fashion type shoots for this client, and I approached him and said, hey, I want to reach out to these guys and shoot still life. I don't want to step on your toes. I want to get your blessing before I do anything. So if you're at all not cool with it, I will never even mention this to them, whatever. He was
Right.
like, dude, he's like, it's all good, I'm not stressed. So I reached out to the client, and they became my first client.
Nice.
So I ended up making not a lot of money, but you basically keep uh like leapfrogging or doing stepping stones, so to speak, where, you do a job with this guy, and then they go to a different brand, and then they bring you with them, and then you kind of expand your network very organically. and better opportunities come up, and then eventually your rate goes up, and then you do that for your entire life, and hopefully it all works out. So it's been pretty great so far. So I'm very fortunate and happy with how everything's kind of panned out for me. So
I like it. So are there any so one of the things that I've heard is like you're almost never the first pick, and by that I mean, like, you hear all these stories about, well, Will Smith was supposed to play Neo in The Matrix, but he turned it down, and so now it's Keanu Reeves, and we just know it is Keanu Reeves, and that's like we couldn't picture it any other way. So I guess what I'm getting to is were there ever any jobs you got where you weren't the first pick, but you got hired on and were able to do the job and have a cool story or cool experience because of it?
and mostly you'll never know because no one wants to be like, you aren't my first choice,
Right.
but you should still think I'm awesome anyway. But there was definitely some times where 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 I met my wife when she was working at a basketball magazine called Slam,
Uh-huh.
where they would get like a rare, like not rare, a random request to shoot somebody like last minute, but the person that they usually use is booked on an ad job, and they're like, I really want to shoot this person, but I need to make money. So
Yeah.
I was in a position where I could take the job or whatever. So I ended up getting some pretty cool athlete shoots that way, where
Okay.
I was totally fine with not being the first choice because when you put your ego aside, amazing things can happen. You know what I mean? You
Yeah,
can really,
absolutely.
it's like I got to shoot so many interesting people, and I don't know. I don't even really like care too much about that in the grand scheme of life other than for the
Right.
stories, because like the most interesting people I've shot were like small business owners for New Jersey Monthly. Like that's what I really enjoyed because I could
Yeah.
connect with real people. When you're dealing with celebrities, it's like they're like, "Yeah, I'll do this," and then 5 minutes later, their handler comes over and they're like, "They don't want to do that." So it's like, well, they just said. So
Yeah.
it's a weird thing, but it's fun. You get cool
Interesting.
pictures out of it.
Yeah, I
Nice
don't know.
story.
I mean, that's kind of what I was getting at. Is like, was there ever kind of right place, right time? So yeah, no, that sounds awesome. And I don't. I guess one of the reasons I wanted to ask about that was to kind of lead into, like you said, you got to shoot some cool people with Slam, and I'm sure there have been a ton since then. But like, I don't know what the interaction is like when you're shooting people versus stuff, because I guess that's where most of my hobby is in shooting, knives and stuff like that. So, I mean, what's that interaction like? Is there a lot of dialogues, a lot of back and forth? There's a lot of you directing because you being the photographer know what you need. I mean, what's that like?
It depends on who it is and where they are in their career, right? So like
Okay.
I can give you an example of shooting well, shooting, first of all, shooting product stuff is, there's no personality there. So that takes the whole thing out of the equation. The only person you're dealing with is pretty much any art directors that are on set. And after a few jobs, you guys have a relationship. So I'll know exactly what they want before they even say it sometimes, lighting wise and camera angle wise and stuff like that. So you have like a nice, very, very smooth relationship where it's very peanut butter and jelly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But excuse me, I just got to clear my throat. It's all this
Those
talking.
those are the ones
Um,
that you look forward to. You know, it's going to be an easy day.
I mean, that's most of, well, it's never an easy day, but it's most of my life where yeah, it's never an easy day, Greg.
No,
It's
I know. I know.
it's always a long day, and you know it's it's nice to know what you're getting into, but it's a lot of shiny stuff and a lot of trying to make a texture look exactly like it should in real life with with lighting and everything, and we're trying to sell people stuff in a way where it doesn't look obvious. So it's a lot of there's a lot of elements to still life stuff, and the fact that it has no personality and it's not a famous person is really hard to shoot, because you can take a Polaroid picture of, let's say, Jay-Z, one of the most famous people on the planet. Shitty Polaroid picture. People are going to be like, yo, you shot Jay-Z?
Yeah.
But if I take a Polaroid picture of a lipstick, you're going to be like, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
For
no,
me, it's
absolutely.
probably
That's
way harder with still life stuff.
yeah.
But
That's where the creativity really
yeah,
starts to flex. So
it just depends on where people are in their career. You get someone like shooting LeBron. It was one of the easiest shoots I've ever done in my life. The guy was the most professional. It was like the easiest 7-minute shoot of my life. I flew to Ohio. There was a day that he was announcing coming back to, or not when he was announcing, but after he had announced coming back to Cleveland.
yeah.
He had 100 people following him. It was insane. It
Oh
was
my
just,
god.
it was cameras. You just knew where he was because you saw 100 cameras walking around the gym.
Yeah.
So my buddy Jim that works for the NBA happened to be there, and I was like, please just sit next to him while I shoot him just to make him comfortable. And his PR person used to work for Arnold Schwarzenegger. So he's like a real serious dude. And I asked him for 10 minutes. He said he'd give me 5, and I ended up with like 7. And LeBron just, I got probably like 70 to 100, maybe 50 pictures. I don't even know. I'd have to check, but
Yeah.
every single one is usable. Every single one is a different pose. Boom, 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 just one after another. And just like, what's up? How are you? I'm great. Thank you for your time. Whatever. Just like piece of cake. So it just depends on the person.
Yeah.
So, which is always the interesting question mark of how's this gonna go.
Right. So, what uh, I guess kind of going from that, like what's next? You said that getting the XXL cover was kind of a dream. What's next on the bucket list? I mean, what are you hoping for? What's the next big goal?
I think my next big goal is to get deeper into directing because I've just dipped my little toe into it so far. I did my first directing work last year for 1800 Tequila,
God, and you crushed it.
and thanks, man. It was absolutely bananas 2 days. It was absolutely crazy. We did like 52 shots for 7 pieces or something crazy in 2 days, but it's so much fun directing, and it's kind of what I wanted to do before I ever got into photography. I wanted to do music videos, which thank God I didn't because they don't really exist anymore. But I
Yeah.
grew up on TRL, so I was like, yo, I want to do this, and I love music, so obviously it's kind of like a natural combo. But
Yeah.
yeah, the video stuff is huge, and if you don't do video now as a photographer in general, but specifically a product photographer, you're kind of like a dinosaur. So I've gotten into video, and I just want to do. I have brands that I want to work with, and just stuff that I want to shoot, and it's just a matter of getting a little bit more on my reel and reaching out to people and just trying to make it happen. But directing
Nice.
is definitely the next big thing on the list.
That's cool, man. That's awesome. I love hearing. I'm quietly nerding out. I've tried to let you talk a bunch because it's just again, um, just knowing like the folks you've worked with and the stuff that you've done. I've always wanted to kind of bend
Nerd
your
out,
ear a
man.
little bit
Nerd
and
out.
and
I'm just telling my crazy stories.
and
I could talk about it
this
all
is
day.
so I went back a while back and I was looking at some of the very first blog posts I did and the very first podcast and so one of the very first interviews that I did and thinking back like I guess I should know now that more often than not, especially when I've had the amount of interaction that I've had with you online, like I should have known this was going to be a cakewalk and like it was going to be cool, but it always blows my mind when you see someone that's just kind of this I don't want to say larger than life, but we'll say it for lack of a better term. But you build up this experience or this interaction, and I guess I should just know that like people like you and the other folks that I've sat down with are down to earth and they're people just like me, and
Who
it's
who's larger than life?
well like okay, so I was thinking about you.
I'm not larger than life, dude.
No,
I'm a
but
regular
I
person. I just
I
happen to
know
have
that
a
now. That's
weird
what I'm
job.
saying. That's again. That's what I'm saying. I feel like I should know that, but I still hype it up in my head. Like when I got to sit down with Blaine Moen from Cobalt Customs.
Nice.
He's do you know Cobalt? Have you seen his work?
I've seen it a little bit, but I'm not like super familiar.
I don't think that they're your style. He does a lot of
Let me look it up
cleaver
just so I
and
can see.
Spidey hole cleaver. Anyway, he's based out of Texas, and when I found out he was really close to me,
Oh yeah. I know these knives. These are cool. Yeah,
I
it's a
got
little
to
too
I got to
funky
sit
for
with
my
him for
taste.
like 45 minutes, and so it was one of those things where Blaine's just a normal dude. He's just super chill. So I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Everybody's normal. Some people just have a bunch of followers. It doesn't mean anything. You know
I
what I mean?
know.
You look at all these influencers that have 250,000 or 1 million followers or whatever. You wouldn't want to sit with them and talk to them for 5 minutes. It doesn't mean. Trust me. I know them. I've shot them. They're
Very
not
true.
interesting.
Right.
It's all a persona. It means nothing.
Well, I think we're at like an hour and 17. I don't have anything else. I mean, what's on your mind? What are you thinking about right now? What's going on with you?
What's on
What do
my
you
mind
have?
is
What do you have new in your life?
I wish I could go to a restaurant and just eat something different, you know.
Waiting for life to get back to normal. Waiting
Yeah.
to go outside again.
Me and everyone else on the planet. I think
Yeah,
we're all kind of in the same boat, but you know, I think I'm gonna take some pictures for Swiss Army tomorrow, so I'm excited for that.
that's
Just to have
cool.
something, something fun to work on. And then maybe over the weekend, or well, not the weekend, but next week, we do our little sanity walks where we just cruise around the neighborhood for 30 minutes or whatever, just to get some air. And I think I might pop into Manhattan and just get a city bike and just snap a couple of pictures of how empty the streets are, which I know everyone's supposed to stay home, so I don't want to get crucified for it, but I need to. I'm going to lose my mind if I don't get out of the apartment, and I will wear a mask, I will wear gloves, and I will be pretty quick. So, and there's obviously nobody out, so it's really
Just
not that
practice your
bad.
social distancing. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I
You'll be
I
fine.
really am. But yeah, I think it'll be really cool to get some super empty pictures of places that are normally insane looking, like
Yeah.
super busy. So I think it'll be fun.
Nice. All right. Well, I guess that does it. I'm gonna leave on that note.
Thanks,
I don't
man.
have anything else, and I appreciate you taking out time. I'm glad we were able to sit
No,
down
this
and
was
make this
fun, man.
happen.
I'm glad we finally did it. Thank you
I
for
know.
having me on.
God, and so I should have plugged this sooner. If you guys don't know, Tom has his own podcast. It's called Mad Focused. How many episodes do you have now? 6,
Oh,
7?
it's okay. I don't know if it's gonna make it through summer, man. I really don't
Man,
know.
listen, I will tell you guys, if you're listening to this, um, go check out Mad Focus. The episodes that are there, even if that's all there ever are, they're good episodes. So go give them a listen. Go follow
I
Tom
appreciate it.
on his
Hear me talk about stages of bananas.
listen, that's that good quality content that people are looking for. Okay.
It's real,
It is. It's very real, and it's raw, and it's unfiltered, and I like it.
It's the real deal.
But again, go give Tom a follow. Go check out his podcast, and if you're not already following Notorious EDC, definitely do that. Tom, thanks, and hopefully we'll talk again very, very soon.
Thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure. I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. We'll talk soon.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.